The Zirith Empire had ruled the outer galaxies for centuries. Their fleets were vast, their weapons unmatched, and their pride unshakable. They saw themselves as the ultimate rulers of the stars, the ones who decided who could live and who must obey. To them, the legends of distant human worlds were nothing more than old stories told to frighten children. Humans were small, weak, and insignificant, or so the Zirith believed. Commander Raltor sat in his command chair aboard the flagship Dreadspire, looking down at the star map projected in front of him. Red blips marked enemy fleets, green ones marked allies, and one small blue dot blinked quietly in the forbidden border. "Another human ship," said the junior officer nervously. "It crossed the Reelan sector. We should intercept." Raltor leaned back and laughed, a deep, booming sound that shook the walls. "Humans? Myths do not cross borders. They hide in stories and old songs. This blue dot means nothing. Prepare a scan, but do not expect trouble." The officers hurried to obey. The scanners hummed, lights blinking as they tried to measure the Earth ship's size, speed, and weapons. But something strange happened. The readings faltered. Numbers flickered. Signals twisted. The ship seemed wrong. It was as if the scanners could not understand what they were seeing. "Commander, readings are failing," said the science officer, voice trembling. "The ship, it is unusual. Energy patterns." "Impossible," Raltor interrupted. "Humans are not unusual. They are tiny, nothing more than a candle in the dark. Focus." The crew worked faster, trying to make sense of the anomalies. But the signals kept shifting. Every measurement they took, every energy signature, seemed to disappear into nothing. Even the shields of the Earth ship appeared unusual, soft yet unbreakable. Then the human ship spoke. Not in loud explosions, not in attacks, but a single, simple message. "Turn back. Or remember the old stories." The bridge went silent. Officers looked at each other. Some laughed nervously. Others swallowed hard. Raltor's lips curled into a sneer. "Warnings are for the weak. Humans are myths. Nothing more. Ignore it. Prepare our fleet to continue patrol." A tense minute passed. The human ship did nothing more. No weapons fired, no signals attempted. It only waited, silent and unthreatening. But still, the dread among the officers grew. There was something about the ship, a stillness that did not belong to anything alive, and yet it felt aware, watching them, testing them. Raltor rose from his chair, walking slowly along the bridge. "This is what arrogance looks like," he said. "We are Zirith. We do not fear stories. We crush them. And these humans? They are nothing." Just as he finished speaking, the lights on the bridge flickered. The hum of the engines shivered, and the ship's AI stuttered, trying to recalibrate the failing sensors. Officers ran to their stations, checking panels, shouting commands. Suddenly, the space outside the viewport changed. Something impossible had happened. Where there had been only one small blue dot before, now hundreds of massive shapes floated silently, uncloaked, moving in perfect formation. The human fleet had appeared without warning, without jump signatures, as if they had been hiding in the void itself. Each ship was bigger, stronger, and faster than anything the Zirith had ever seen. The lights glinted off their sleek hulls, reflecting strange symbols that no alien language could read. The bridge was frozen. Even the most seasoned officers could not speak. Raltor's laughter died in his throat. His hands clenched the armrests of his chair. "Impossible, this is not possible," he shouted. "Where did they come from?" The human ship that had first crossed the border remained at the front, quiet, silent, unyielding. Its single message echoed again, this time louder in Raltor's mind. "Remember the old stories." The dread in the room was heavy. Not fear of death, but something older, deeper. A warning. A memory the Zirith had forgotten. For centuries they had dismissed humans as insignificant. But the myths had never been wrong. Raltor swallowed hard, trying to regain control. "Signal them," he ordered shakily. Tell them we are the Zirith Empire. We do not fear stories. Withdraw." The human fleet did not move. It did not retreat. It only waited. And in that silence, Raltor realized the truth, something the Zirith had not felt in generations. Humans were not ordinary. They were not weak. And the old stories, the legends, they were not lies. The bridge erupted in activity as officers scrambled, sending commands, preparing weapons, trying to comprehend the impossible. But the human fleet held its ground, unthreatened, unafraid, and silent. Raltor's eyes widened. The myths were real. And for the first time in centuries, the mighty Zirith Empire trembled. Somewhere in the void, a simple truth waited to be revealed. The galaxy had seen humans before, but no one had ever survived to tell the tale. And now the war had begun, though no one yet knew who had truly started it. Cliffhanger. The human fleet moved closer, silently, its numbers overwhelming. The Dreadspire sensors could not track all of them. And at that moment Raltor understood. The stories had been warnings. And warnings were never meant to be ignored. Sharp bursts echoing through the metallic corridors. Officers shouted over the noise, their voices tight with panic. Yet no human ship fired a single weapon. They only watched. Raltor slammed his fist on the console. Status report. Commander. Sensors cannot track all of them, the science officer said, voice shaking. There are hundreds, no thousands. They move too fast for our instruments to measure. They appear and disappear almost instantly. Raltor's eyes narrowed. His pride burned, but a creeping fear touched the edges of his mind. They are only ships. Machines. Nothing more. Focus all firepower on the nearest group. The officers obeyed immediately. Plasma cannons glowed, energy converging on the first wave of human vessels. But just as the weapons fired, something impossible happened. The human ships vanished. Not with a jump signature, not with any known stealth technology, but as if they had melted into the vacuum itself. Seconds later they reappeared behind the Dreadspire. The fleet was faster, smarter, and somehow alive. Impossible, muttered Raltor. They cannot move like this. On the main viewport, the lead human ship, the same that had crossed the forbidden border, hovered at the center of the formation. Its hull gleamed with a cold, quiet light. A calm voice came over the comms, simple but clear. We hoped you would not choose war. The bridge froze. Silence replaced the alarms. Officers looked at one another, disbelief painted on their faces. Some gasped. Others whispered prayers to gods they had long abandoned. Raltor gritted his teeth. Who speaks for them? He demanded. Bring them forward. Open comms. We are the Zereth Empire. You will obey our commands. No response. Only the still, unyielding fleet outside. It was as if the humans could hear him without words. His anger rose red and hot, but beneath it an unfamiliar, uneasy feeling spread, fear. The science officer spoke again. Commander, they're ships. They are not just ships. They are integrated. Their movement patterns, intelligent. It's as if the fleet itself thinks. Raltor laughed, but it was hollow. Intelligent ships? Preposterous. Humans are nothing more than flesh and metal. Then the lights flickered again. This time it was not just the Dreadspire, the entire fleet felt it. Alien communications went dead. Weapon targeting systems malfunctioned. The sense of control that the Zereth relied upon, their power, slipped away. A young officer pointed at the viewport. Commander, they are surrounding us. Every angle. We cannot see all of them at once. There is no way to track the entire fleet. Raltor's hands shook slightly on the chair's armrests. Prepare a warning shot, he growled. Show them Zereth power. Make them understand. Make them fear us. The weapons glowed again, ready to fire. But as soon as they discharged, another impossible event occurred. The energy beams slowed, bent, and dissolved before reaching their target. The human fleet had neutralized their attack without even touching a single ship. The silence on the bridge was deafening. Even the alarms had stopped. Raltor's heart pounded. He had never felt helpless before. Finally, the human voice came again, calm, steady, and echoing in the minds of the crew. We fight only when forced. You have chosen to ignore the stories. Now you will remember. Raltor's fingers tightened on the console. Every ounce of pride screamed at him to attack. But every instinct, every warning that his ancestors had whispered in myths, told him to stop. He was facing something older, something deeper than any battle he had fought. Something alive and ancient. The human fleet shifted, moving with silent precision, completely surrounding the Zereth ships. There was no hesitation. No fear. Only certainty. Raltor's mind raced. Could these humans, small, underestimated creatures, destroy the mightiest fleet in the galaxy? Were the legends true? Could the myths that had seemed foolish for centuries actually hold the power to terrify an empire? The answer waited in the cold, silent shapes outside the viewport. The humans had arrived not to negotiate, not to retreat. They were here to remind the galaxy why their stories were never false. Cliffhanger, the human flagship glowed brighter, almost as if it were alive. A pulse of energy radiated from it, washing over the alien fleet. Lights flickered. Ships shuddered. And in that instant Raltor knew, the war had already begun, and he had no idea what he was truly facing. The Zereth fleet shook under the silent presence of the human armada. For the first time in centuries, Commander Raltor felt a chill run through him. He had faced countless enemies, wiped out entire planets, and conquered fleets that thought themselves invincible. Yet these humans, small, underestimated, myth-shrouded humans, felt different. Dangerous. Alive. "Commander," shouted the weapons officer, voice tight with fear. "The human fleet, it's preparing something. Sensors detect energy, but it's unlike any weapon we know. Not destructive, but powerful." Raltor banged his fist on the console. "Impossible. Humans have no advanced technology to match us. Target them. Fire everything." The fleet obeyed, plasma beams firing across the void. The humans did not dodge or attack. They simply waited. Then, in an instant, the beams from hundreds of alien ships dissolved mid-flight, evaporating as if they had never existed. The bridge erupted in alarm. "Commander, our weapons, they are neutralized." Raltor's heart raced. "Explain. How is this possible?" The science officer shook his head, words coming out in a rush. "It's a pulse, a controlled energy wave. It shuts down our systems, ships, shields, weapons, without killing a single living being. Entire squadrons are immobilized. We can't even move." Raltor felt rage boil inside him, mixing with fear. "So they can destroy us, but choose not to?" Before anyone could answer, the human flagship stepped forward. Its hull pulsed with a cold, blue light, and the air seemed to hum with power. Without warning, it emitted a silent wave of energy. One by one, alien ships froze, their engines stuttering, weapon systems failing, lights flickering. Hundreds of vessels were immobilized at once, as if the humans were playing with them. Raltor slammed his chair back. "Unacceptable. Attack again. Fire everything." The beams fizzled before reaching the human fleet. Another wave of energy washed over them, this time targeting their weapon systems directly. Communications cut off. Turrets jammed. The Zereth fleet had no control over anything. Panic spread among the officers. The human voice came again, calm, unwavering. "We fight only when forced. You have chosen to ignore the stories. Remember them now." Raltor's eyes widened. The stories, the old myths the Zereth had dismissed for centuries, were true. Humans had power beyond imagination, beyond comprehension. And now, for the first time, he felt the crushing weight of that truth. "Commander," said a junior officer, trembling, They could wipe out our fleet, any moment. They do not need weapons to destroy us, only their control of energy. They are unstoppable." Raltor clenched his fists, jaw tight. His mind raced. He had trained for countless battles, for wars where death and destruction were tools. But this was different. This was not war as he knew it. This was something else entirely. Something alive. Something that tested not strength but fear itself. The human fleet did not advance further. They waited, silent, imposing, their lights glowing like distant stars. But the message was clear. One more step, one more attack, and the consequences would be catastrophic. Raltor struggled to command his fleet, his voice strained but firm. "Form defensive lines. Prepare emergency protocols. Countermeasures, anything." The officers scrambled, sending desperate orders. Yet the pulse continued to immobilize ships, shutting down engines, communications, and even life support systems in smaller vessels. Hundreds of ships were now floating helpless, powerless, as if waiting for judgment. And then, a single message appeared in the communication log of every Zereth ship, glowing ominously. "You have chosen war. You will remember why myths are never false." For the first time, Raltor considered surrender. But pride, stubborn and burning, would not allow it. "No," he shouted. "We are Zereth. We do not kneel to myths. Fire everything even if we die trying." The bridge shook as another pulse rippled through the fleet. Raltor's own flagship shuddered, lights flickering. Energy systems faltered. Crew members stumbled, trying to maintain control. The humans did not attack directly. They did not need to. Their presence, their command of the battlefield, was enough to terrify, paralyze, and dominate. Raltor's mind raced. He had underestimated the humans. Every story, every myth, every warning that his ancestors had dismissed now pressed down on him like a weight. Humans were not merely fighters, they were living legends, their myths alive and terrifying. And in the silence of space, broken only by the quiet hum of powerless ships, Raltor realized the truth. The Zereth Empire, proud and mighty for centuries, had just met a force it could neither fully understand nor fully fight. Cliffhanger. Far in the distance, a shadow moved, larger than the flagship, faster than the fleet. The humans had prepared something more. Something the Zereth could not see, could not measure, and Raltor knew with cold certainty, the true power of humanity was about to be revealed. The Zereth fleet trembled in the emptiness of space. Their once mighty ships floated like helpless toys before the silent, unyielding presence of the human armada. Commander Raltor gritted his teeth, his pride fighting the cold realization that his empire had underestimated humanity. The myths were true, and now the full truth was about to unfold. The human flagship glowed brighter, its hull pulsing with quiet, steady energy. Slowly, deliberately, the fleet began to move, not in chaos but in perfect harmony. Ships that had been invisible only moments ago emerged from the darkness, joining the formation. Hundreds more, then thousands, materialized from folded space as if the galaxy itself had bent to reveal them. The armada of echoes, as the humans called it, had awakened. Science officers scrambled to calculate its size, but their instruments failed. No scan could track all the ships. No sensor could measure the speed or the energy flowing through them. The fleet moved as one living entity, each ship anticipating the next, responding before any command could be given. "Commander!" shouted the weapons officer. They are everywhere. Every angle. They are beyond our understanding." Raltor pounded his fist against the console, anger and fear mixing in a storm of pride. "Fire everything. Target the lead ship. I will not be humiliated by myths." The weapons systems glowed, charged and fired. But once again the energy beams disintegrated in mid-space, absorbed or deflected by the humans' unseen shields. The fleet did not retaliate violently. They did not need to. Their power, their control of the battlefield was absolute. Then a single human ship advanced. The hull shimmered with strange symbols, glowing faintly against the dark void. And a voice rang out, calm and powerful. "You have forgotten your history, Raltor. We have faced you before." The words hit him like a hammer. He froze. What do you mean?" he whispered almost to himself. He remembered the ancient archives, dusty records of old wars, treaties broken, and battles that had never been spoken aloud. Humanity had fought the Zereth centuries ago, and had won. They had survived, endured, and evolved. The stories, once dismissed as myths, were warnings. History itself had been whispering to him. Another wave of energy pulsed from the human flagship. The Zereth ships shuddered, engines faltered, and communications scrambled. Hundreds of vessels were immobilized, unable to move, unable to fire. Panic spread like wildfire through the fleet. Raltor gritted his teeth, fury boiling over. Countermeasures. Activate every defensive protocol. Target all ships in the armada. The fleet tried, but their weapons were useless. Sensors failed. Targeting systems collapsed. Ships that had been proud and powerful were now frozen, drifting helplessly, while the humans moved with a terrifying grace. The human flagship spoke again, its voice calm, echoing in every ship's communication system. "Your empire has grown arrogant. You have forgotten respect. You have ignored the myths. We give you a chance to remember, before it is too late." Raltor's mind raced. He realized that this was no ordinary battle. The humans were not attacking recklessly. They were teaching, demonstrating, reminding the Zereth of something older than pride, older than fleets, older than empires. The viewports shimmered as the human fleet shifted positions, forming a perfect circle around the Zereth. The fleet's energy radiated outward, bending the vacuum itself. Even the flagship's weapons systems faltered under the invisible pressure. For the first time, Raltor felt helpless, like a child caught in the gaze of a predator far larger and smarter than him. "Commander, look!" shouted a junior officer. "They are opening a portal, behind us." Raltor turned his eyes toward the void. A tear in space had appeared, swirling with light and shadow. From it, more human ships began to emerge. They came silently, perfectly aligned, increasing the armada's numbers beyond calculation. The Dreadspire and its fleet were now trapped in a cage they could not escape. The human voice spoke again, slow, deliberate. "Your history demanded respect. Your arrogance demanded consequence. Now you will learn why myths are never false." Raltor's pride burned, but fear had replaced certainty. He had led empires into war, but he had never felt powerless until this moment. The myths, once dismissed as fables, had become reality. The humans were not only fighting, they were reminding the galaxy why their stories were feared, why the old tales had survived through time. The Dreadspire sensors flickered wildly, trying to track the hundreds of new ships emerging from the portal. The entire fleet was overwhelmed, immobilized and surrounded. The human armada had awoken, and it was impossible to fight, impossible to escape. Cliffhanger, the human flagship's lights pulsed brighter. A deep, resonating hum filled the void, shaking every ship. The energy from the armada spread like a tide, invisible but undeniable. Raltor realized with a cold certainty, the humans were about to reveal their full power, and no Zereth ship could withstand it. The Zereth fleet floated in silence, trapped and powerless. The human armada had surrounded them completely, their ships shimmering like stars in the void. Commander Raltor's pride and fury fought against a deep, creeping fear that he could not ignore. For the first time in his life, he faced enemies he could neither destroy nor predict. "Commander," whispered a science officer, voice trembling. "We are completely surrounded. Their energy, it's not just power. Feels alive. It's aware of us." Raltor gritted his teeth. "Do not speak of fear," he growled, though his voice lacked conviction. "We are Zereth. We adapt. We fight. We survive." But even as he spoke, a deep hum spread across the fleet. The human flagship glowed brighter, and the voice he had come to fear so much spoke again. "Come. Certain. Unyielding. Zereth Empire, you have forgotten the lessons of the past. You have broken treaties, invaded worlds, and dismissed our warnings. Myths are not lies. They are lessons." The words echoed in the minds of every Zereth officer. The fleet had dismissed humanity as weak, insignificant, and small. They had mocked the legends, laughed at the old stories, but now they could see the truth. Humans were not merely warriors. They were guardians of something older than pride, older than empires, older than history itself. A holographic projection appeared in space above the human flagship. Images of old battles, long-forgotten treaties, and ancient human warriors flashed across the viewport. The Zereth could see their ancestors' arrogance, their betrayals, their defeats. Humanity had endured, grown, and remembered every wrong. The myths had been warnings, not threats but lessons. Raltor's hands shook as he studied the images. He had dismissed every warning, every story, and now he understood the consequences. We underestimated them," he muttered almost to himself. "The myths, they were true." A human commander spoke, calm and deliberate. "We fight only when forced. We do not seek destruction. We do not seek vengeance. But we remember every broken promise, every treaty shattered, every empire that thought itself too mighty to fail. Our myths are alive because we are alive, and we only act when necessary." The truth struck the Zereth like a hammer. Humanity was not cruel nor monstrous. They were protective, disciplined, and patient. They had the power to destroy the Zereth fleet completely, but they had not. They had waited, given warnings, and now, after centuries, reminded the galaxy why they were feared. Raltor struggled to find words. His mind raced through centuries of history, through victories and pride, and realized that every story he had laughed at carried a truth he could no longer ignore. He had believed humans to be small, weak, and insignificant, but they were neither. "Commander," said his second-in-command, voice trembling, They are giving us a choice. Do you see it?" Raltor looked at the viewport. The human fleet had not fired. The pulse that had immobilized hundreds of ships had stopped. The armada now held a silent, watchful position, giving the Zereth one chance, one opportunity to act. The human voice spoke again, firm but fair. "You may surrender. You may acknowledge your mistakes. Or you may continue to fight, and history will remember nothing of your empire. The choice is yours." Raltor felt the weight of every decision, every mistake pressing down on him. His pride screamed to fight, to refuse, to conquer, but the truth could not be ignored. Humanity was not only powerful, they were patient, intelligent, and just. To continue the battle would mean certain annihilation. The fleet around him waited, frozen. Raltor swallowed hard, his pride battling reason. Finally he spoke, voice low but clear. "We surrender." A silence filled the void. Then, slowly, the human fleet relaxed, their energy pulsing softly, almost kindly. The immobilized ships regained power. Communications were restored. No weapon fired. No destruction followed. Humanity had chosen mercy, showing the Zereth the strength behind their myths. Raltor fell into his chair, exhausted, humiliated, yet strangely relieved. The humans had proven their power without violence. They had reminded the galaxy why legends were never false. The myths were alive, yes, but they were lessons, not curses. A junior officer whispered, almost reverently, "Commander, they could have destroyed us all. And yet, they did not." Raltor nodded slowly, understanding now what it truly meant to face humanity. "No," he said. "They fight only when necessary. They are more than we imagined. We were fools to doubt the stories." And then, beyond the human fleet, in the dark void of space, an unknown presence watched silently. A new alien species, hidden from sight, observed the humans' mercy and power. They had not feared the myths, yet. The galaxy had learned one lesson that day: humans were not only powerful, they were legends. And legends were never forgotten. Cliffhanger, the unknown observers stirred, curious and wary. If the myths could terrify even the mighty Zereth Empire, what would they do when faced with humanity themselves? The Zereth fleet was silent. Every ship, every officer, every weapon system now felt the weight of the humans' presence. Commander Raltor sat in his command chair, exhausted and humiliated, staring at the human armada that had surrounded them. For the first time in centuries he felt the true meaning of fear, not the fear of death but the fear of something greater than himself. The human flagship hovered at the center of the formation, pulsing softly with quiet authority. Its voice, calm yet powerful, echoed in every Zereth vessel. "Zereth Empire, you have seen our strength. You have seen our patience. You have seen our power, but we fight only when forced. Now you must choose." Raltor's hands clenched on the armrests. He had led empires into war, shattered worlds and crushed fleets. Yet here he sat, powerless, staring at beings he had once dismissed as weak, insignificant and mythical. Pride warred with reason inside him. To fight was to die. To surrender was to live, but admit defeat. The human voice continued. "You have two choices. Surrender and live, preserving your empire and your people. Or continue to fight, defying the lessons of history, and vanish from the galaxy as if you never existed." Across the fleet, the officers whispered among themselves. Fear and relief mixed in their voices. They had never faced a choice like this. To fight meant annihilation. To yield meant survival, but at the cost of pride. Raltor closed his eyes. Memories of ancient archives, of old battles, of the myths he had laughed at so long ago, flooded his mind. He had ignored warnings for centuries. The legends had always been true. Humans did not fight for conquest. They fought for balance, for justice, for protection. Their myths had survived because they were real, and now the truth demanded respect. He opened his eyes and looked at the viewport, staring at the lead human ship. Its pulsing lights seemed almost alive, waiting, patient, judging. Raltor took a deep breath. "We surrender," he said, his voice firm though his heart pounded. "We surrender to humanity, acknowledging your power and your wisdom. We will not fight. We will not resist." A silence fell across the fleet. Then, slowly, the human armada shifted. The immobilized ships regained function. Lights returned to their consoles. Weapon systems came back online, but no fire was directed at the Zereth. The humans had chosen mercy. A voice spoke again, calm and deliberate. "Your myths are not about fear. They are about respect. Respect for life. Respect for power. Respect for the choices that shape the galaxy. You have chosen wisely." Raltor exhaled, feeling a strange relief mixed with lingering humiliation. He had been tested and he had survived, but only because he had recognized the truth. Humanity had shown the galaxy a new kind of strength. One not measured by destruction or conquest, but by control, patience and moral wisdom. As the fleet regained stability, Raltor addressed his officers. "Remember this day. We underestimated humans. We dismissed their stories. We mocked the myths. Never again. Humanity is not just powerful, they are legends, and legends are never forgotten." The human fleet began to withdraw, slowly retreating into the void, leaving the Zereth to recover. Their presence lingered like a shadow, a reminder of the lessons learned. Yet, as they disappeared from sight, a new figure watched silently from the darkness beyond the battlefield. An unknown alien species, cloaked and unseen, observed the events unfold. They had not feared the myths, nor understood the stories. But now they had witnessed the human strength, their patience and their mercy. Curiosity and caution stirred among them. If the humans could terrify even the mighty Zereth Empire, what would happen when their own species faced humanity? Raltor turned to his officers, solemn and reflective. "The galaxy has changed. We have seen what humans are capable of. They are not monsters nor conquerors. They are protectors. And we are witnesses to their legends." A young officer asked quietly, almost in awe, "Commander, will they come back?" Raltor looked at the fading light of the human fleet. They will return only when necessary. They fight for balance, not for glory. And when they return, the galaxy will remember why myths are never false. In the void of space, the lessons of the day settled like a weight upon the stars. The Zirith Empire had survived, but it had been humbled. The humans had shown restraint, power, and wisdom, qualities no empire could ignore. And somewhere, far beyond the battle, other species watched, learning a lesson that the galaxy itself had long forgotten. Fear of myths was not weakness. Respect for them was survival. The human fleet disappeared into the void, leaving silence, awe, and a warning that would echo for generations. The myths were real. The legends were alive. And humanity was unstoppable. Final cliffhanger. Far in the shadows, the unknown observers whispered among themselves. They had not yet feared humanity, but soon they would learn that some myths are meant to be remembered, feared, and respected. The galaxy had changed forever, and the next chapter was yet to come.